the Gauteng Health MEC, Nomantu Ralehoko, who is calling on police to arrest those who stole copper pipes which supply oxygen to the Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital. The ICU section of that hospital had to be evacuated, and a case has been opened with the Diepkloof police. And Linda Mnisi following that story for us. He joins us live. Linda, good morning to you. Police, have they given you any update as to whether or not the suspects may be arrested in connection with this?
Well, at this moment, Xoli, all we know is that the case has been opened with the Diepkloof police station. It's a case of theft at the moment. Investigations currently ongoing in that particular matter to look into who could have, entered into that particular room that kept those copper cables. And of course, at a later stage, then they will be able to give us an indication of whether or not they've identified the suspects or not. And this amidst the calls by the MEC for health here in Gauteng, saying that in fact this goes beyond just theft and cable theft. It's placed a number of lives at risk. I mean, if you look at that number of patients that were in that main ICU of this academic hospital, they're counting along the lines of 24 patients, 19 of which were on life support. So when those clinicians only noticed that the oxygen was not normal, it was lower than normal, they immediately reported it. And that's why the Department of Health is really calling on police to leave no stones unturned, because a number of lives were placed at risk. This, of course, also highlights the issue around cable theft, right? Since we're talking about the work of the police, cable theft reaching a new high. Media reports telling us that in fact that particular room that the copper is kept in is inaccessible to people like you and I who may have easy access to the hospital. In fact, if you want to enter that particular room, you'd have to use a card. So it brings about questions around security at the hospital, who could have entered, how those people gained entry, and especially because, I mean, if you look at, right at the entrance of this hospital, there are security officials who are stationed there. And if you've entered Baragwanath Academic Hospital using a car or by foot, you'll remember that people are searched, cars are stopped, they ask you to open your boot to check whether you have not left with something that does not belong to you. But also, you'll remember the number of other things, things like the stealing of babies at the hospital. So the security is usually keeping a close eye on those who are coming in and out. So the security questions become very important in this particular case, because how did they gain access and how did they leave the hospital?
Yeah, Linda, it raises a number of issues. And any word from the hospital, Linda? I know you've mentioned the ICU and whether or not the patients may have been compromised, but is the hospital able to give assurance that nothing is amiss in that ICU, that things are back to normal now?
In the 12 o'clock hour, Xoli, we'll be getting a word from the hospital in terms of the impact of this cable theft, right? 10-meter long cable pipes stolen at this hospital and the lives that they placed at risk. They'll be giving us an indication of what exactly the impact was. But from the statement that they released, we understand that from today, they'll be moving those patients back to that particular facility, that ICU, because you'll remember the Department of Health is only responsible for the health of the patients. When you speak about issues around copper and the building, it is the Department of Infrastructure that would then come in to assist with those different issues. And that is why when it was picked up that the copper cables were stolen, the Department of Infrastructure was then informed to come and start working on the process of replacing those cables so that these patients may be moved back into that facility. So today we understand that they'll be moved back into that facility, and perhaps they'll give us a glimpse of what that process looks like, because as you can imagine, 19 of the 24 patients were on life support. So you'd need a number of machinery, right, to make sure that they move from one ward to another, and one can imagine additional staff as well to try and make sure that the process is as smooth as possible.
Linda Mnisi, live for us at the Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital. Thanks indeed for that update. And Linda will keep us updated as to what the department says is the state of that ICU ward now.